so I thought I'd make a video on gotten this much done in the last, today, almost 3 weeks. So it was like the first, October 31st, I started. I really haven't worked much on it, but it's been too much. I'm sorry, I haven't gotten a lot done. It's not saying that I haven't worked on it a lot. Sometimes I have to spend, it always takes me like double, almost like, we're not double, like 40 hours more on top of whatever time frame it says it takes to build these. It always does. I never build it faster, I never build it, and anyway, so I thought I'd kind of give an idea of some of the things that I have to do. So this is probably one of the biggest difficult repairs I've ever had to do, and the side of the boat, and it cracked on me, and I had to put this fender on the side, and I couldn't get it to bend, and I basically had to break it even more and glue it and use pliers, hand compressors, clamps, to be able to hold on glued to this, and it was very difficult because I literally had to hold on to a little piece for a little bit for like 2-3 days, then let it dry, and then hold on for a couple of 2-3 more days for a little piece to wait and glue and dry, and I had to keep doing that, and it still didn't come out. But I thought this was a very good fix, in my opinion, compared to what I was actually given. I still have to go over it and sand it down, maybe use some glue. I may leave it like that just because it adds some character, and it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of it's bumped into something, so obviously it'll add some character, right? These boats had dings in them back in the days too. But anyway, it was a repair that I thought turned out really well compared to how bad it is and how difficult it is to try to fix this particular type of part. And regardless, there was already some mismeasurements that were pretty off. Like whenever I put the cannons in here, they're already going to be off, and they're going to be tilted. The back tires are going to be tilted up because there isn't enough room, and for some reason the fenders didn't come down. Didn't stay up high enough. And this is probably the first time this has ever happened, but anyway, I'm rolling along with it and going along. People really don't understand how much work it actually does. This is each one of these strips. I don't know if you can see that. Each one of these strips, I have to get one stick. I have to get one of these, and I have to, oh shit. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So anyway, so each one of these has a nail in it, and this is the actual skeleton in here that I put together already. So whenever I put this single strip, I have to get it to bend like this to have a nice curve. You can see that. You can see that it's supposed to have a curve. You know, obviously on a boat. You see those curves? It's supposed to have a curve. It's a lot more difficult than it seems, and you have to put a nail, and I put glue, let it dry. People do it a little bit, few different methods, but these have to be individually put on one by one. One by one, each one of these have to be placed on here. And it's very difficult because once you get to the back ends and to the front ends, it starts cracking on you. And then you start having to use glue, and then you got to keep in mind that when I get done with this outer part, I have to go over it again with planking, with the wood brown planking, so you won't see any of my hard work. You won't see any of that. And also, that when you're putting this together, depending on how the circumstances turn out, because I've had a big problem. I have not been able to perfect how they sand down real smooth the skeleton, so that when I put this planking strips, these are actually the wood foundation of the ship. so that it's real smooth, so that I don't have to have so much trouble. I can easily just put one state, nail it, glue, go to the next, nail, glue, nail, glue, nail, glue, nail, glue, nail, glue, and it's real easy. But if you can see, it bends. And so I have to get it to do this curve, and there's so many other problems you come into with this. This front part, obviously I have to cut, then I have to sand down, because this front part is supposed to have an entire front, I don't know what they call that, front lining. So this right here, so you're supposed to go like that. But it's supposed to fit in there real nicely. You have to wait for the glue to dry. You have to make sure you don't, mess any of this up, because it ruins everything. So I have to sand this down just perfect. Just perfect. All the way sand this down, and then I have to get to the back part. Now once I get to the back part, obviously you see how much space and everything that's kind of not looking very pretty. Well, there's also a lot of work I got to do. I have to put a brown stick planking there. I have to then fill this all in so it doesn't look like open space. And that becomes very difficult and makes me upset, because the people who are actually sending me this in the wood, they may be intentionally sabotaging the wood so that I'm intentionally having to go through this. But it's very difficult. It's supposed to be beginners. This is just the foundation. Obviously, I have to be creative with this boat. I can no longer, they're messing up the instructions, so I'm going to just do as best as I can and be creative with it. I have, there's only one boat that I got about 95%. I could have got the whole 100%, but I didn't do it that way. And I thought added some few elements on the front part on the Polaris. But this ship right here, has a lot of strings. There's a lot of complex strings and whatnot, and they're messing the whole thing up. So obviously I'm just going to have to be creative and just pass this on, work this the best way I can, because it's the thought and the work effort that you're doing. And this is for religious purposes, and this is for, angels and Jesus and healing and the whole world of biblical religion of understanding. But regardless, this is very difficult. Very, very difficult, because each time you build one of these, you don't know how it's going to turn out, because I try sanding it down. I haven't figured out how well they do it. I've seen them do it on a few times on the internet, but it just seems like it spends too much time. Maybe one day I'll go ahead and try. I've tried it a couple of times, but I still haven't been able to master it. It's very difficult, so that it becomes easier to put these single strips very nicely, very smooth, and I speed up the process, because each time of it, I can't get it just right, because if you don't get it right, you can't unsaw the dust. You can't unsaw the wood that is now turned into dust. So you have to get it right. So if you sand down too much, that's it. That's all you're going to get, So I have to be able to get this as close as I can and fitting as I can. Also, because I don't know if you can see that, but very closely, these edges, like it, boom, boom, and some of this is supposed to be real smooth. You see how that's pretty smooth there? I don't know if you can see that. And you see how something can get stuck on there, maybe a needle. Well, I have to go and sand this entire outside all over again, so it's real smooth. So when I start putting planking, this is the designing brown planking. When I start putting this stuff on, it fits. Not only does it fit on there, but not only does it go on there real smooth and easier, strip by strip, very lining, but it also has, what I was thinking. Once I put this brown planking on there and it's all fitted, I have to make sure it's all going to measure out to the front of this. It's going to measure to the back and point here and to the bottom of this. And it's very difficult. It's easier on the outside, but The thing is on this outer layer part, I tend to put glue. I have to put glue on the nails so that the nail stays put as well, because it's not just enough that I nail it. I have to put glue on there. But the thing is I start using glue, so when I put the planking on, I put too much glue. If I put too much glue, regardless, then when I go over it with the brown planking, it becomes very difficult because the glue and the planking doesn't stick. It just seems to kind of fall apart a little bit. So I have to, not only do I have to smooth this down, but I have to re-glue each one of these nails to make sure the nail stays, and I make sure that it a clean wood surface. It's a very clean wood, so that it has a good clean finish with the glue on there to make the nail stay and the wood stay, and the whole boat have better foundation. So yeah, that's what I got to do. And each one of these are nails. I got to do one by one, and they crack on me sometimes, as you can see. And then for these, that you see how I have to do splicing, and that even on these, all this is going to require splicing. All this is going to require some splicing, and splicing is where I have to basically sand this down into a point and narrow it to make it fit almost like a puzzle. And it has to strip, and I have to figure out the measurement. I have to figure out how long this strip is, because each one strip that I have to do a splicing and sand down is completely unique to exactly to what it is placed on here. Exactly. So I have to eyeball it and look to see how close it is and where it's going to be fitting, whether it's going to have any kind of support system, add extra glue, or there's nothing there, or I have to just basically use one of these and just add a glue because there's nothing there to hold it, because just in that particular way that I was sanding, putting the planking down, there's nothing to hold it. It's just the whole gamble of it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. And obviously you're going to see some interiors that are going to have a little bit of damage, but this is going to add some character. I think when this is all finished and I add some, it still has the character, it still has its purpose, and it still shows its personal making of this. This is for a relative of mine. But anyway, I had to be creative because they switched out not only the instructions, they made this very difficult. And the people the makers, I think they're sending me wood. This is supposed to be beginner, but it's not beginner. It still takes me. I've worked on this for 3 weeks. I really haven't worked really much on it. I've been working on it since November 1st, but I haven't got very much done. I've done quite a number of hours of work. There was maybe a week where I just 4 or 5 days I didn't do any work to it, but it's for the amount of work that I'm doing, I haven't been able to get much done because I keep having to make fixes, I keep having to wait, I keep having to make sure it's like, this measurement's here, and I keep having to do more work than I'm supposed to. Like this back end was already supposed to be completed, but it wasn't, because the instructions got switched out, and they're also saying something else. So now what I have to do is I have to personally hand sand this down to make it fit nicely and fit snug. And to make it fit snug is very difficult, because you see all these little spots here, they're supposed to fit in there. Obviously, that's a mistake. I wasn't supposed to. There's a front layer that's supposed to cover that, but I accidentally just went over it. But it's just going to have to stay. It's just like it did right here. You see this right here? The planking, the first layer planking is supposed to go over. You're not supposed to see that. But anyway, so you can see, this is what it's supposed to look like on both sides. This is what it does look like on both sides. This right here is the outside planking I have to also do by hand. And then you see these squares? I have to trim all that by hand. Each one of these I have to do by hand. So you'll see all my mistakes. You'll see faults, but you learn through trial and error. So when I get to, if God willing one day that I get to want to build some of these master ships that are like expertise level. Like even the Titanic. I was hoping to God that I could build it here, but I don't know if I'll be able to build it. I don't know if I'll be able to build it because the shipping is, the boat is really big. It's like 2.5 feet long, and I don't know if I can fit that in a box. And I don't know if I think there's a limited size that USPS, the post office, can actually send. And I think also, I think also with UPS, I'm not too sure, but it's very expensive. It'll probably be at least like $200 to $250 to probably send a package that big. I sent a package and it was like $120. It was like the last shipment of boat that I sent. It was like $120 to send it. But the Titanic, a very beautiful ship. I want to build it here, hopefully. But if not, I'm going to have to wait till I get to Dallas. That's not even an expertise. That's like a medium. That's a medium difficulty. They have the extreme difficulties. These ships, I mean, without a doubt, take 6 months to build, and all the strings and whatnot. They're all custom to this size, but I've seen some jumbo size scaled model where the boats are upsized larger, and those obviously you have to have a lot of space. I mean, it's literally like about the same size of this table. It's like 3 feet. Like it's like this big, and it's huge. You can see everything a little bit better. These, I think, may be a little bit more difficult. But anyway, this is what I've been building at on these model ships. But kind of giving a posting that, see, I have to go through all this, refill it, and smooth it down, refill it, smooth it down, refill it, glue it, smooth it down, glue it, smooth it down, glue it, and I have to write down all these little pieces of wood, cut them into little pieces to which one is going to fit, how it's going to fit nicely, and glue it, then sand it down so it has a smooth finish. And I can't even do anything else until I finish that. Then I have to see how the planking outside is going to do. And it's a lot of work you don't ever see me do like I did on all the other boats. I got some lucky on some boats where I've been able to build them fairly pretty fast. I haven't had too much time on this, but like on this, I can't get it to turn. I can't get it to curve, so I have to I have to cut a little piece and then add them here, and then I have to cut these pieces and I have to add them, and it's very difficult because I have to staple it and I have to smooth this down, and this actually prevents me from doing splicing so much as well. So I do this because it kind of helps me from splicing. So this, I have to do splicing, and this is a lot of sanding down on one single stick. It probably spend so much time just to even get that to fit, and it has to be needle perfect. When I'm sanding these sticks down, I got to be able to sand this down at needle accuracy. At needle accuracy, I got to bullet point this. Just sand it down just enough so that it's needle dropping to this fitting, so it fits smoothly. Glue it and then nail it, if there is a place where I can nail it. But regardless, I always glue it, and hopefully, have more difficult than that. But you gotta have all these little spots, very detailed, that I have to fix, go over, glue again, and yeah. So this is each one of these strips. I have to put one by one. I have to glue it one by one. These I have to cut, measure, and glue. Cut, measure, and glue. Cut, measure, and glue. All this I have to measure as well. But like I said, if you know what I was talking about, like these cannons, I don't know if you'll see that. They're already going to be off, but I can't do anything about it. If you look very, very closely, Nope. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that right there. You see how bad that's off? I can absolutely do nothing about that. So what I have to do is I'm probably going to have to refix that again, make the square bigger, but it's going to look funky when I finish the boat, but it's going to fit. If not, then I can just go ahead and leave it that way. And as you can see, the tires are lifting, but success. So I don't know what I'll do. I may just leave it like that. I don't know. Just because, you know, you could see my mistake. You can also take a look and from the glance from what it's supposed to be doing, right? Albatros. But this is a very difficult fix. This is a very, very difficult side fix that I was managed to do a very good. I thought it was a really good repair because I still have to put a top foundation on here, lining, so it'll cover this, and most of this I'm probably going to leave just for details. You know, adds character. You know, it's not to say it had a rough time in the seas and you know, didn't hit quite an iceberg or ran into a rock or something and got lucky. Who knows, or maybe a cannon blew up or something. But anyway, this is just the bottom part. The entire masting of this I have now completed, but they changed, I talked about this, they changed the wiring, the strings and all this. So this is what it is, and this is supposed to catch, and this takes a very long time. Each one of these has to be individually stringed. Each one of these I have to sew this wrap, sew this wrap, sew this wrap all the way here, and put these measurements correctly ahead of time. I have to do this as well. This right here, all this, I have to put these individually. Everything is all individually made, and so when I place this, then when I complete the bottom part of this, and I get ready to place this up on this boat to make it look like a boat, it's a whole nother world to figure out how the strings actually go into these little beads here, and they go zigzag in all sorts of different ways to give the demonstration of a boat. But obviously whoever is making this, it adds a lot of decoration that has no purpose to it. You know, like this right here, this doesn't have any purpose. This is just like decoration. I don't even know what that is. But obviously there's so much to this. I haven't learned, I don't know about, but I think it's pretty fun. I like making these. It's very frustrating when they do this to me because it's very difficult to make, and I have to go through it, and then they screw me all up. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with that. As you can see, this takes a very long time as well. You see all these? I have to do this all by hand. You see all this? I have to drill a hole, I have to put this little ring here, and then I have to glue it. Make sure it's perfectly aligned with where it's supposed to be so that when I place this, I'm not going to have future problems. There is some give and mistake here and there, but it's only by a fraction of a centimeter that I can go off by, a centimeter or two at most at times. Especially with this particular situation, because there's so many strings, and when you put all these different strings, then you can't even put your hand in there, so you can be able to, you know, get the strings and hook them up to make it look like a boat and how it functions. But like I said, a lot of this stuff doesn't have a functional boat size. It's much of this, to my belief, or to my understanding, it is decoration, which is, some of it is how a boat works, but much of this really isn't. Like, you wouldn't see this many of strings on a boat. You wouldn't really see that many strings. You know, obviously, because they're all over the place. But anyway, I thought I would get this and, you know, kind of show y'all. And I'm hoping maybe I can build the Titanic. That's That's probably going to be one of the biggest goals. The Titanic and the Flying Dutchman. That's like my two top. This is an American boat, Albatros, and it's probably one of the most difficult dings and incredible repairs I've had to be able to make. It was really, I didn't think I was going to be able to fix it. I honestly didn't. I mean, I was a really bad damage. That's the biggest probably ding that I've ever had to deal on any boat. But I got it. I got it to fix. I'll have to sand it down, fix it. But I thought for a fix, I thought it was pretty good. Still at the beginner stage. You come into problems like this, where you can't really do much, where you can tell where there's a little bit of a crack, and it cracks there. But like I said, I think some of this also has to do with the people that are sending me the supplies, because some of this is already pre-made. The foundation of this bottom part, it's already pre-made. But these strips, I have to individually put one by one, put one strip of glue, put a strip of wood. And these aren't thick wood like this. It's bendable, like thin planking. It's thin planking, so I have to do this very straight. Then I was going to be able to put the little, use this pencil where I can put little like stitches kind of looking to make it look like wood. But I was like, I don't feel like doing that. I did it on the other boat, and I didn't do it right on the other boat either. But I'll have to, go by it. You learn as you go. And that's kind of what's going on with this. I have to drill these holes. Once I put the plank in, I have to figure out where the holes are, because that's a later future thing I have to work on. And so it's fun. I think it's pretty fun. It gets frustrating. It does get frustrating because there's so much stuff. Like, you look at the map and it kind of, it's like, there's so much to do. But the idea of this is, once you get all this, it feels so well to be accomplished. It feels good. And when I put these front masts on there, it's a whole other world of strings. But obviously they messed up so much of this, and I just can't. I have to go along with it with what I have and start being creative. So I want to be a bit creative with this boat. So anyway. Building this, and I thought I'd show, because people won't see any of this. Once the outside planking gets placed on here, you won't be able to see any of the hard work and efforts that I did. All you're going to see is just planking, smooth, nice finished boat, and it looks easy, and it's not. It's not easy. These things break on you, they crack. Obviously I want this to last, for a long time. And fortunately, the last couple of days, I've gotten quite a bit of work. I've gotten a lot, it takes me, 2 hours just to get, 5-7 plankings outside of this done sometimes. Just 5 or 7 of these done, and then it gets very difficult. Once you get to the middle and you just get to the closest to the edge, to the very bottom end of this, it becomes very difficult. You can no longer put the longer full strip on them. You have to sand it down to splicing, cut them into pieces. But I prefer not to have to cut them like this. But I had to, so then I remake it. So hopefully this is giving some tutorial, and it's supposed to, I'm going to have the smooth finishes. Maybe smooth finish just like that. Smooth it down. Make sure the glue stays in there, and so I have it fresh, and I have to sand this down. I don't know if I think I explained this. These little woods that stick out, that because it's not perfectly set even one after the other, it has ridges. So I have to sand everything down to get as close as the same, all even together, and then use a plunk, because it makes it very difficult for me to put the planking on there. Very difficult, and I have to go through so many other problems as well doing that. And I have putting the outside planking is it's like doing the whole thing almost all over again, but thin wood. It's a little bit easier. If the thick wood is 9 out of 10 difficulty, then the outside of this part planking is probably about a 7. a 7 difficulty because I have to go over it all over again, and I have to do the same thing. I have to measure this out, cut, trim, cut, trim, cut, trim. It's a little bit easier, but it's like a 7 difficulty or so. But yeah, figured I'd show y'all, and still got so much more work to do on this. I'm not sure if I'll paint it. I might paint it. Don't know what artifacts I'm going to be using, but there's a lot that you won't see that I did. So, anyway. I think that some of this is also, I think they made this more difficulty prior to me putting this. Obviously, I know that they did 100%. I'm not really explaining this very well, but like this is already pre-cut, and I had to do this single. And so obviously they toy with me in the measurement because there's laser precision that they're doing on this. Laser precision that they're doing on this, so they can mess me up on all kinds of different ways. But good thing I don't have to throw it away. So I just do what I can, and to the point where they don't want me or don't allow me because they screwed it up so much. Then there's nothing I can do. But regardless, I could only work with what I have. I thought I'd show this. They haven't got really much done on this, even though I spent a lot of time, a lot of efforts, because I've had to do repairs. I've been, very difficulty having to do splicing and pull things together and figure out what's going to work, what's not on each one of these pieces of wood. Still got a lot to go.